Do you need assistance for your Vanmoof S2 bike because it shows the error 27 or 29? When yes, I have the perfect guide for you to fix it. So I strongly advise just to do these steps when you're an expert with technical stuff, because you need some knowledge to do it, and otherwise you damage yourself. And you also need some tools to do it, so just be a bit prepared, and I also will write down which tools you need. What is the cause of error 27 or 29? It mainly means that the battery management system, in short terms, BMS, cannot connect to the battery from your bike. This is a safety log from the BMS, which do not want your battery to give unsafety or unreliable current to the cartridge. So I have some steps that may help you to fix the problem. So before taking a look into the main problem, I had another problem that gave me the error 27. That's a melted cable for the speaker in the cartridge. And because of the melted cable, the current flow couldn't go in a cycle anymore. And that was the problem, that I couldn't use the bike for 1 year. And with that, I didn't charge the bike for 1 year. So in my opinion, it would be the best to first look to the cartridge. For that, you just remove the cartridge by the 4 screws that are underneath it. And of course, you have to remove the saddle too, otherwise it would block the removal process. And when you then have the cartridge out of your bike, there are some screws on the sides of the cartridge. Then you have also carefully to remove. So the access point to the speaker is in section B of the cartridge, so in the rear part. You only have to put the screws from the rear part out, and then you have the access to the speaker, and you don't really have to unscrew the other screws of the front part. Then it will be a little bit harder because those 2 plastic frames are glued together, and that's some tight glue, so maybe take a cutter and cut this glue away. When you then open the cartridge, you may already see the burnt cable, otherwise you just have to look to the speaker. There then is some plastic cover that's maybe melted. When not, then it's everything fine, then you can just close the cartridge again. Otherwise you have to solder it together again to make the cycle complete again, so that current can flow. So when you're finished with that, just put everything back together, put the cartridge back in, but not the saddle and the screws, just to have the connection again, and then try to charge it. You may have solved the problem, but when nothing changed, it's the problem that the batteries doesn't have enough voltage anymore. Like I already tried to explain, the BMS then locks the current flow. So then the only option left is to pull out the battery. So to put the battery out, you have to let the air from your back tire out, and underneath the frame from your bike, in the near of the rear tire, are 2 screws, one on the left, one on the right. Then you have also to unscrew to get the little plastic cover away. Under that you see 5 screws, but you only have to unscrew the middle one, but only to the half, so that it's still very tight. Then you take nippers to pull the whole battery out. So when you pull the battery out of the frame, pay attention of the cable that is laying there, because it's not good to break it. So be careful there. And I advise you to mark how it was in it. And further on both ends of the battery are 4 screws. You also have to put them away. And after that, you can take the plastic cover from the battery also away and remove it. So when you take the plastic frame around the battery cells away. Also pay attention with the cells so that you don't break them in any way, because in the middle they are only with tape taped together. So really pay attention there. And when you take a good look on the whole battery setup, you see on top another plastic cover that is only fixed with some clips and is also taped on it to protect the cable management. I would advise you to put it away, because when you have a multimeter to measure the voltage, you have to go to the BMS that's underneath this. And when you look on the motherboard, you see B plus and B minus. That is only the short term for battery plus and battery minus. So for your multimeter, you just have to take your pins there and measure the voltage there. I would write down the voltage you have before and afterwards. And then you see also there, where you already unscrewed the 4 screws on both ends, are the contacts for plus and minus for the accus. And there you need a power generator with also plus and minus, of course. And this generator shouldn't be over 4 amp and only should and use 30 volt, because otherwise you may explode your battery. So when you manage to set this whole thing up, like you have the both plus and minus connected to your power charger, and you have the voltage measurement done, you can start charging. So for myself, I charged with 500 milliampere and waited for about 30 to 60 minutes. So, and as you can see, the voltage slowly started to rise. And after that, I would go back to your battery, or maybe you watch the process of charging, and I would recommend to measure the voltage again. So to be sure that there is a voltage between 25 to 30 volts. And when you have these volts, just build everything back together and then try to charge it. And for myself, it worked at the first time, because when the whole battery has over 25 volt or 20 volt, the BMS doesn't lock the current flow any longer, and it's charging again. After that, I would suggest to charge the battery not only for 3 hours, or at least 3 hours, because when the battery pack was completely empty, it needs a longer time to charge completely. So I hope these steps worked, and if you have some questions, for example, just use the comment section. I tried to help as far as I can, and I hope I doesn't forget to mention any things.